Baltimore, which, by the way, has Ray Rice, one of the best running backs in the league. You got Joe Flacco, who has had his inconsistencies at times. Last week, they won 9-6 in what I call a putrid contest, 15 points combined against Kansas City. And they gave up a lot of rushing yards on the ground to Jamal Charles. Maybe this could be the week where Murray will do the same.
And it's funny because if you're looking at the trend, the Baltimore's always been great defense, okay offense.
Yeah.
This year, it's actually been the opposite. They've been one of the worst defenses against the rush, and they're one of the best offenses this year, obviously, not counting last week, of course.
Torrey Smith has had a breakout year this year.
Absolutely breakout year.
And Anquan Bolden, I think he's
still there.
He's still there.
He's still doing it.
And you got Dennis Pitta. So they got some weapons. And you got weapons on the Cowboys, too. You got Kevin Ogletree is a decent weapon to have. You got, of course, Miles Austin, Dez Bryant.
If they come to play.
I'm going... this is going to be tough for me, bro. But I'm going to go with Baltimore this week.
And I don't fault you for it, but
I'm
sticking with my boys. I think Tony's going to have a bounce-back game. He doesn't want to go out like that. Following up his best statistical year with this year, he doesn't want that. He doesn't want that for his legacy.
But Dallas, in the last 2 years, have had losses following bye weeks.
Unfortunately, yes. But let's try to break that trend this week.
So, and not only that, Baltimore has won 30 home games since 2008, the fourth highest in the NFL. So right there, when it comes to home, Baltimore really plays out. So I'm going to beat AL. Now we're going to go to the Pats. Heading west to the 12th man, playing the Seattle Seahawks. To me, Seattle this year has improved defensively.
Absolutely.
Cam Chancellor, Red Bryant, and Bruce Irvin, the kid they drafted from West Virginia, to name a few people. And that's what really has helped Seattle really the most. But their offense.
Aside from Marshawn Lynch.
Oh, of course, and Golden Tate. That's it. If you ask people about Seattle's offense, it's Marshawn Lynch, who's the number one, who's top 5 in the league in rushing yards, and Golden Tate, who had one of the most controversial TD catches of the year. Mm-hmm. But that aside, where is Braylon Edwards? Where's Sidney Rice? Where the hell are the other receivers on this team?
But they need someone to throw it to them. And I happen to like Russell Wilson. I think he's going to be a fantastic quarterback. He's smart. He's personable. He understands what's going on. But right now, he needs some time. Yeah. He's a rookie.
And
what's going to happen? It's growing pains.
And last week he threw for the first time over 200 yards. He hasn't even done that. So I'm going with the Pats because the very fact that they have one of the best ground games in the league with Bolden and Ridley.
Ridley's been unbelievable.
But Bolden, too, has had his moments, too. And he's been a great, backup to Ridley. Yeah. And I like, I want to see more of Wes Welker involved. I would like to see even more of Rob Gronkowski,
If he's healthy. If he's healthy. I think it's going to be a close one. I do think the Pats will pull it out, but I do think it's going to be extremely close.
Oh, yeah. And Brady this year, over 1,400 passing yards without it. And the Seahawks have...
terrific. He keeps doing it.
And look at the Seahawks with 8 turnovers. I'm giving this to the Pats. Now you got the Broncos and the Chargers. Both teams coming off of really bad losses from last week.
Monday night, right?
Yep. This is the Monday night thriller. Manning.
Not a bad game.
Versus Rivers. Manning's record. He's 4-5 versus San Diego when he was a Colt.
Okay.
Including the 2 playoff losses he had to San Diego.
Yeah.
And he's been 1-5 in the last 6 meetings against a Philip Rivers team.
Doesn't bode well for him.
Yep. So
but it's a new team.
Yep.
It's a new day. We'll see what happens.
Demaryius Thomas, one of the best receivers in the league.
He's developed a great rapport with Peyton.
And on top of that, I think Eric Decker. I think this will be the week where you see Eric Decker even more involved. Mm-hmm. I'm just gonna say 7 receptions for him. Mm-hmm. And Wilson McGahee, don't fumble the damn ball like you did last week. That was stupid.
Butterfingers.
Yeah, don't do that again. And Keith Brooking, another name from
Keith Brooking.
Who had
another one with the fountain of youth. Guy just keeps going.
Yep. But you know what? Hey, the Chargers had their fair share of injuries. Ryan Matthews at times has been injured for most of the year. He's back. Nate Caden could be questionable this week. Mm-hmm. And Sharice Wright, their cornerback, is questionable this week.
I think it's really going to depend, for the Chargers at least, for Ryan Matthews. I mean, Jackie Battle has come in there, and he's done admirably. But Ryan Matthews is the go-to guy.
Huh?
He's their number one offensive weapon, and also Malcolm Floyd.
Malcolm, one of the best receivers. You
Yeah.
know, he has in his squad. You know, even though he got Eddie Royal, Robert Meacham, the old Saint, that's still those two have not done anything.
Nope.
I would even like to. And Dante Rosario had a nice performance, but he's just one nice performance and that's it.
Yeah.
And
Will Antonio Gates be healthy? We don't know. Between him and Ryan Matthews, it's any day they could be out of the game.
I know.
You never know.
But Denver, you know, still has yet to win in the road. That's the thing. This is their third road game. I hope they will win this week. And the one thing that Denver has to look at is Eric Weddle. The guy is just insane in the secondary. He's had 27 tackles, the third most on the team.
He loves to make hits.
Yep. But I'm going to give this to the Broncos.
too.
I'm going with Peyton Manning and his crew. I think they're going to really pull it out this week. And I don't think they're going to make any turnover mistakes. You know, he's a very cerebral quarterback, Manning.
And as good as he's played, I still see a little bit of hesitation, a little bit of extra happy feet. We always seen, Peyton, he does a little dance before his throw, but I've seen a little more now. I think he's still getting, his legs back into it. He's still figuring out how defenses are going to play him now with his new team. He's still figuring out his new team, but it's still Peyton. So I give it to the Broncos.
Me too. I'm going with the Broncos all the way. Peyton Manning's team has not beaten a winning team yet. This will be the first one they do. Now we're going to get into the next game. We got the Detroit Lions coming off of 4 special teams touchdowns in 2 games from their bye, from their last 2 games against the Philadelphia Eagles, coming off a bad 16-14 loss to the Steelers.
Makes me smile.
I know. Makes anybody that's not an Eagle fan smile.
Or a dog lover.
Well, I'm not going to get into that one. But nonetheless, Detroit, man,
they've played horrible. I mean, their defense is laughable compared to last year.
In fact, the first game, they barely even beat St. Louis when Stafford gave up 3 picks, 2 of which to Finnegan, 1 of which was a pick 6 in that game. And then they played Minnesota. They gave up 2 special teams touchdowns, 105 yards to Percy Harvin.
Percy.
He was also having a great year, but we'll get to him in a little bit.
Absolutely.
And then you got Philadelphia, which has had issues with the offensive line, turnovers, giving up sacks. They've had fumbles. Remember last week, Vic had one at the goal line.
Right into the end zone.
How the hell do you in the goal line?
I mean, that's what you have to deal with if you're a fan of Michael Vick.
You
got to take the good and the bad. He's reckless.
He's an
erratic.
erratic.
But he could also be one of the most talented players in the league. But unfortunately, it comes with his injury proneness and his ability to turn the ball over.
And this guy is 7th in the league. The one good thing you say, he has over 1,300 passing yards. But his erraticness, his 11, 12 turnovers he's had this year, the sacks that have been given up on him. They've had to put Kevlar shields on him like he's friggin' Batman.
Yeah.
In the Dark Knight,
that's what happens though. Like I said, he's just very injury prone. He plays very erratic. He's in and out of the pocket. He's scrambling. He takes chances. He doesn't understand the concept of sliding.
At least he's got a shady person in his corner, and I'm talking about LaShawn Shady McCoy. Yeah,
shady.
Averages about when the Eagles have won this year, he's averaged about 4.6 yards a carry. So if he averages more than 4.6 yards, then the Eagles are going to end up winning the game, most likely. I'm giving it to the Eagles. They're at home. They're coming off a really bad, close loss. They've had a lot of close games, including the other close wins they've had this year that they should have had from the get-go. Not the Giants win. That game should have been the Giants, but nonetheless, Eagles got this.
The Eagles? I'm actually going with the Lions. I think there's something about the pride of the way they played last year and how they performed this year. And I think Ndamukong Suh, I think he really is going to get that defense playing tough. And they're going to go after him because they know that the Eagles are a turnover-prone team. And they're going to get after him.
The last time that the Detroit Lions won in Philadelphia, 1986.
Great year.
So right there. Oh, yeah. Yeah, for Mets fans.
Exactly.
Yeah, but other than that, let's see what happens. I'm going with Philly. I think Vic is going to have himself a game. 2-3 touchdowns, 2 of which Brent Chelik will get. Now, Minnesota Vikings against the Washington Redskins. The fact that the Vikings have eclipsed their total wins from last year already, and the fact that Christian Ponder is one of the most accurate QBs in the league, has one of the highest QB ratings and passer ratings in the NFL, and to boot has Kyle Rudolph, who's having 4 touchdowns this year.
His roommate from college.
And Percy, as you mentioned, Mr. Harvin from the Gators.
Mr. All Around.
Yeah, is one of the best all-purpose players. He can catch, he can run, he can do special teams.
And he stayed healthy, no migraine issues, which is a huge, huge plus because last year in the second half of the season, he led the league in touches, in overall offensive touches, and with his special teams ability.
I know.
You knew that was going to carry over into this year, and he's really put it together. So you just got to, knock on wood for Percy Harvin that he's going to stay healthy.
Yeah, Percy Harvin's done great. But how about another guy that should be nominated for Comeback Player of the Year?
Absolutely.
All day, Adrian Peterson. My God, the guy has just been amazing this year.
He's a freak of nature.
He's had, I think, over 400 yards on the ground this year.
Something like that.
And to boot, his yards per carry are excellent. Everything about Adrian Peterson, coming off an MCL and ACL injury, if that doesn't get you Comeback Player of the Year, I don't know what will.
And it's funny because in the past, backs who've come back from an ACL injury never do well their first year. And now we've got 2 of them, Jamal Charles and Adrian Peterson, who both played exceptionally well coming back, which is amazing.
So I take that back. Those 2 should, they should give like a half of the trophy if there is a trophy to both of them.
Maybe there's something to be said about the way doctors are handling their injuries now.
Yep. Instead of going, I hope they don't go to Dr. James Andrews.
He's famous for everything.
Yeah, I call him Dr. Death of players. Because every time you hear that guy's name, he's not going to end up playing. But he is a good doctor. Nonetheless, Ponder has a 99.5 passer rating. He's had 6 touchdowns in the red zone. Most 4 of them to Rudolph. So I was talking about Rudolph earlier. Minnesota, however, has given up 304 yards in the first 5 games. That their defense. Last year, they've given up about 354 altogether. So it's an improvement, but something they need to work on. Jared Allen was the sack master last year. I would like to see more of him sacking people.
He's got to get back into it.
Also, Chad Greenway, so I like to see him even more involved and get more sacks this year, too. And the secondary, Antoine Winfield, Father Time on the team has really done his job. And Harrison Smith, the guy they drafted from Notre Dame, even though he had a fine this week on a hit, but still the guy is just nasty. He can do some good stuff in the secondary.
Absolutely.
And but now getting to the Redskins, RG3. Will he play? Will he not this week?
From what I heard, he looked like he was good. I mean, right when he got hurt, they said that he didn't even know what time it was, what was going on in the game. They were really nervous there. But it looks like he's been practicing, and it looks like he's gonna, unless barring any setbacks, in the next day, he should be playing, which is huge for the Redskins.
You got to feel for the Redskins. They're coming off of 2 consecutive losses where, they lose to a field. They lose. Actually, no, they didn't lose that game. I'm sorry. They beat the Tampa Bay Bucks. It's not 2 losses. It's actually last week's loss, 24-17, where RG3 gets hurt. And on top of which, he gets concussed. Kirk Cousins comes in, the guy they drafted from Michigan State. And he had about 100 yards. Not bad. He did get a touchdown in the game, I think, to Santana Moss. Another old timer. Yeah. But yet he's got some juice in his legs.
Yeah.
And Peter Waiter, or Pierre Garçon, has helped out a bit. But the best thing about Washington this year, besides RG3, to me, is Alfred Morris, the 6th-round draft pick from Florida Atlantic.
I mean, this guy came out of nowhere. I mean, people were drafting Roy Halou as like a top running back.
And now he's on IR, for the year.
Yeah.
And
then there was a thought that Evan Royster could play. He's been injured, but even when he had his opportunities, he didn't do it. And this guy Morris just comes in and just been unbelievable. Got lightning in a bottle there.
And the thing is about this game, I think it's going to come down to the running game. I really believe whoever has the better rushing game between Peterson and Morris, that team will win. And also look to RG3. He's kind of like Michael Vick. He likes to run, but he's not as erratic or stupid as Vick, even though last week was a stupid move.
Give him time. We don't know yet. We only have a small sample size, so who knows? He could get dumber and dumber.
I hope not, and I don't think he'll be dumber, but I think Minnesota is going to win this one. I think it's going to be a close one by 1 touchdown.
Absolutely, I agree.
Vikings. Now we got about 4 games to talk about and about 13 minutes left, so let's get to them. We got the St. Louis Rams against the Miami Dolphins. The Rams coming off a huge Thursday night win, ending the undefeated streak of the Arizona Cardinals. And the Miami Dolphins coming off a nice victory over the Cincinnati Bengals. Well, okay, maybe not so nice, but
a victory.
A victory nonetheless, after the 2 consecutive overtime losses they've had.
Yeah.
So right there, I'm going with Miami. I like Miami in this game.
I actually do too. I think their run defense has been great, and unfortunately with the Rams, I feel like Steven Jackson, he's already said that he's not going to be
a Ram next year.
Yeah, he's not going to be a Ram this year. He's going to test the free agent waters. I feel like he's checked out. He hasn't scored a touchdown all season long. I mean, he did have his best running game last week, but it was 70 yards. And for a guy that every year ran for 1,000 yards, multiple touchdowns, was just a workhorse, even he's injured every week and he still plays, I feel like he's completely checked out.
And with
Amendola also out for the season.
Amendola is like 30% of their offense, 3rd highest in the league.
I feel for the kid because he came in, I don't know if you watched Hard Knocks when the Cowboys were there. He was doing his thing for the Cowboys, but unfortunately we had too many receivers then, and we had to let him go. And you know what? Cowboys fans are kicking themselves now because he would have been a great slot receiver to complement Austin and Dez.
Are you talking about Brian Hartline?
No, I'm talking about Danny Amendola.
Oh, Danny, I know. It would have been great, but
yeah.
Now, I'm sorry if I got that wrong, but Brian Hartline.
Yeah.
How about this? This is a guy who didn't even make it to the preseason, who just came in the week that the season was about to begin, and in 2 games, he's had over 400 yards receiving. I'm talking about the 253-yard performance against the Cardinals, a Dolphins record, with 15 receptions, and 11 for 100 and 109 yards on 11 receptions in 1 game against the Oakland Raiders. This guy is
doing his thing.
Number 1 in the NFL, 514 receiving yards. You got Bush, who's one of the best running backs in the NFL.
He's coming off some injuries, but looking like he's getting back to full strength.
I think his best years really are with the Dolphins. Overall, even though a lot of people say, "Oh, what about the years with the Saints?" But with the Saints, he got injured a lot. Last year, he played 15 games. For Reggie Bush to play 15, that's a miracle in itself.
Yeah.
You barely get him for half of the games in a year. And on top of that, you were talking about the running defense. This is how good Miami's run defense are. They haven't allowed a 100-yard rusher in 19 straight games. They're number 1 in the NFL against the run by giving up only 65.3 rushing yards a game. And
that's going to continue this week because, as I said before, Steven Jackson just doesn't have it this year.
And Isaiah Peed, the kid they drafted,
they haven't even used him. They used Darryl Richardson as their backup, and even since that 1 game where he came in and he ran for over 100 yards, he
crap.
hasn't done anything.
He's total crap. The only thing good about the Rams is their defense. Last week they had 9 sacks on Kevin Cobb.
Now, is that indicative of their defense or of the poor offensive line? Of the Cardinals?
I think it's a little bit of both in that game.
Okay.
I believe
you.
I believe a little more so on how good the Rams defense are because I like what they brought in. They have Cortland Finnegan, who is the antagonizer. He's had 4 interceptions this year. He hasn't had an interception, I think, since week 3. I think he'll have a pick off at Tannehill in this week. He won't return it for anything. And Janoris Jenkins, the troublemaker that people put him out to be, I think he's another good corner to have.
Great.
And then you got, of course, James Laurinaitis, who's the son. If you're a WWE fan, I think you know who he's the cousin of.
Yep.
And John. And then, of course, whom else am I forgetting on this great defense?
Who?
Besides James Laurinaitis and all that. Oh, Chris Long, the son of
Howie.
Of Howie Long, that you see every Sunday on Fox. The Oakland Raiders, man. His son is a beast like him in every way you can think of.
Yeah.
So if you ever look at any old Howie Long tapes and you watch any Jake Long tapes, you might see a lot of Chris Long, actually. Jake Long
Jake Long is from Miami.
who's actually on the Dolphins this week,
Yeah.
as well as Marquis.
The Longs are playing each other, but they're not related.
Not related in any way. I'm giving this to Miami. It's a nice home victory, and the sun will
agree.
be shining for the Dolphins, especially with Tannehill, who won't get sacked, even though he's been sacked 10 times.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're 9-2 all time as well against St. Louis.
Oh.
So now we got the Kansas City Chiefs and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, or the Buccaneers. Arr.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I always do that every week for the Buccaneers.
yeah?
I like doing that. I just like the pirate sound.
Okay.
Anyway, the Chiefs coming off of an embarrassing 9-6 loss to the Baltimore Ravens.
Yep.
Their fans embarrassed themselves a bit, and the only thing that wasn't embarrassing was Jamal Charles, who had an embarrassment of riches.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, how many people in Fantasyland are picking up the Bucs defense this week to go against the Chiefs offense?
Not many. If you're looking in terms in the running game, no. But the passing game, on the other hand, well, besides Dwayne Bowe, that's it.
But someone's got to throw him the ball.
Yep.
As great as your receivers can be,
I know.
if you don't have someone to throw them,
I know.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, Matt Castle got hit last week, and who gets to start in? Brady Quinn, as we talked about earlier. First time since 2009 when he was a Cleveland Brown, one of the 3 quarterbacks that Cleveland has drafted in the last 6 years.
I say it every time. Every time I think of Brady Quinn, I think of that draft day. Just sitting there waiting for that phone call, waiting. Everyone thought he was going to go as high as 5, and I just felt so bad for him.
But just as ugly as Kansas City has been, Tampa Bay has been just as uglier, if not uglier than them. Josh Freeman has only completed 54.6% of his passes, third lowest among starting QBs.
Awful.
And on top of which, Doug Martin, the guy they drafted in the first round from Boise State, has only had 1 rushing touchdown this year.
Yeah.
The only bright spot they've had, really, is Vincent Jackson, one of the best receivers that they picked up in the offseason.
Yeah, absolutely. Huge pickup for them.
But still, they're 32nd in total offense.
I mean, Graciano really needs to step it up, and earn his keep there. I mean, it came out right away. Everyone thought he was going to be the offensive
savior.
guru. And so far, there is some growing pains, though. I mean, I do think that they have some talent there. And, Shiano is a terrific coach, and I think he can help them.
But
I don't know about this year, unfortunately, because I think this year is kind of just going to be a wash. But I think in the years to come, if they can keep improving every year, they'll be there.
And Mark Barron, too's got a future. He's not.
Oh, absolutely.
And you know what? Talking about seniors on the team, Rondé Barber has been a mainstay of that team. And I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are a year or two away from really being a competitive team in the NFC South.
Yep.
But I'm going to give this to the Chiefs. I'm going to give this to the Chiefs for the running game.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm going to. Actually, you know what? I changed my mind on that. And I can change my mind. So I'm going to go with the Tampa Bay for the very fact that they're at home.
Yeah,
now,
I'm actually going with the Bucs as well.
Yeah, I think this could be the game where Vincent Jackson has 2 TDs now thinking about it. And but don't be surprised if Jamal Charles has about 100 yards on the ground, too.
Jamal Charles.
He does run well.
Yeah.
Now you got 2 games left. The Buffalo Bills, one of the most putrid teams in the NFL recently, against the Arizona Cardinals, who consecutive games, whose undefeated streak was broken.
Yep.
Who wins, who loses in your mind?
I'm going with the upset. I'm going with the Bills. Because as bad as the Bills can be, they can also be just terrific on offense. If you look at Fitzpatrick, he can throw for 4 touchdowns and 4 interceptions in the same game. I mean, they have some weapons there. They have Stevie Johnson, they have Scott Chandler, they have whoever they're going to put in running back at this point.
Fred Jackson,
CJ Spiller. They interchange them. They even have Tashard Choice, another former Cowboy, who always came in and did well when he was asked. But I think the offensive line of the Arizona Cardinals was really exposed last week. Kevin Cobb spent the entire time, on his back. He was bleeding from his mouth almost the entire game. The Cardinals, their whole running game. Ryan Williams is out for the season. Yep. They're going to Stevens Howling. They have just a bunch of guys. I saw that there was at least 4 different guys that they're going to try out at running back. And when you have that with already their offensive woes, I think that that 4-0 start was great, but I think they're going to come back to earth.
Despite the fact that they've given up 17 sacks, the Arizona O-line in the last 2 games,
Yeah.
one of the saving graces has been Larry Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
He's about 37 yards away from 10,000 career receiving yards. He's at a very young age.
Yeah.
He's one of the greatest receivers to come in to play in the game in such a long time.
Yeah.
I actually, you know what? I like the Cardinals this week for the very fact that Buffalo's been outscored, I think 890-10 the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I think Kevin Kolb could take advantage of that. I think Michael Floyd, you might see a lot of him in this game, more than he's
Rookie.
been involved.
And even Andre Roberts, who's had 4 touchdowns this year.
So right there, I think Arizona, despite the running game that won't exist this week, I think the passing game is going to be good. And I think this week they'll get back to the basics of protecting the quarterback and making sure he's not on his back. The final game of the week is the Battle of the Buckeye State Part 2 in English. Yeah, Cincinnati and Cleveland face each other back in week 2, where the Bengals beat the Browns 34-27. In that game, Trent Richardson had 100 yards on the ground, a rushing touchdown, and a passing touchdown, an NFL first. For the Cleveland Browns, at least, first for that team.
I'm going to give it to the Browns. I think that they're finally due. I think their offense has been playing well. Trent Richardson has scored at least 1 touchdown in every game since the first game of the season. And, I just think with the return of Joe Hayden, who actually said he's looking forward to go after A.J. Green, we'll see. He's got to put his money where his mouth is.
A.J. Green, man, the guy's 5th in receiving, 493, and 7th in yards per game with less than 100 yards per game that he averages. You got Andy Dalton, who, he doesn't have a sophomore slump, but he still needs some improvement. And on top of which, Cleveland, they are definitely due for their first win. It's in Cleveland at Paul Brown Stadium in the Dog Pound, and the dogs are going to be coming out. You know that song, Who Let the Dogs Out?
Yeah, I think Mitt Romney sang it.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Well, getting aside from politics, the dogs are definitely going to be coming out this week, and they're going to be hounding the Bengals. I'm giving this to the Browns.
I think it's going to be whoever does better between Trent Richardson and the law firm Ben Jarvis Green Ellis. Whoever has the better game, their team is going to win. And I do think Trent Richardson is going to have the better game because he's more complete. They're using him more both in the passing game and the rushing game, obviously. And, Browns.
All right.
First win.
And that's pretty much all of week 6. The teams that are off this week, you got the Bears, you got the Jaguars, one who actually had a nice 41-3 victory, and the other who's and the Jaguars who are sagging, and 2 more other teams that are not coming to my mind at the very moment. But this week I expect to see a lot of penalties this week.
Oh,
I
yeah?
expect a lot of rushing touchdowns this week, and I expect to see a lot of close games. A lot of games come down very close.
Yeah, I do see that. There are a lot of evenly matched teams, either evenly matched on the good side, evenly matched on the bad side. So, yeah, it's definitely going to be close.
Yeah, and definitely some penalties, some hair-raising ones.
A lot of penalties, a lot of fighting.
Without a doubt. Thank you so much, Adam, for joining me this week.
It was a pleasure, Eric. Anything I can do to help out my little bro.
Well, and I want to thank you, the audience, for watching this week of the Blitz Zone. Come back next Friday for another episode of the Blitz Zone here on CTV.
Have a good night.